Hi, everybody. Welcome to Half and Half this morning, Saturday, February 13th. Many, many things going on today. Tomorrow is, well, I said today, and then I said tomorrow immediately. In the next few days. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day. And then Monday, Scott and I have our anniversary. So 13 years. We just sort of like missed the boat on getting married on Valentine's Day, I guess, and did it the day after. um, and then today, I have a faculty concert, a dance concert at the university. A lot of you guys know I work for UW and teach dance there, and we're having a live streaming concert today. So I have a piece going on there. And you might be thinking, what does this have to do with Pilates? And you would be right to say that. But I was talking to Scott before class, and I said, what should we do? And he said, something to do with dancing, because I have this dance concert. He was thinking about dance, and he was like, I have no idea what that is, and I have no idea how I'll follow it with dance. But isn't that a fun little creative problem solving challenge? So, dancing, what I came up with was just moving everything in all ranges of motion, which is one of the great things about dance. I think there's a number of things that are really healthy about dance in all sorts of realms, including like just doing something you really love and enjoy, which a lot of times dance has to do with the enthusiasm of movement and just the joy of movement. But definitely something that happens in dance that's really good for the brain and really good for the body is how you move everything in different ranges of motion and explore all sorts of ranges of motion. And that you're moving through all these different planes. So there's a lot of good uh, ways the nervous system has to connect, and you're really challenging it in different ways, almost like speaking a language, right? Like your brain just kind of goes everywhere to be able to speak a language. Um, and then that's really good for balance. And then it's just, yeah, and then it's fun. So those are my three things. It's fun, it's good for balance, and it's good for your brain. So that's good. So that was my solution to the problem. Let's just move and do some exercises that hit all the joints and work in different ranges of motion with all those joints. So I'm thinking about starting a little bit with the arms and the shoulders. And I want to do that by starting on my hands and knees. So let's go to hands and knees, hands about shoulder distance apart, and elbows a little bit bent, and upper back really open. And then see if you can find a head to tail relationship, head down to the tailbone in one long kind of neutral spine position. And then we're going to keep the spine as it is and just start moving your shoulder blades, your scapula. And the way that's going to happen, because your hands are fixed, it means your rib cage is going to move. So you're going to let your rib cage kind of drop down and feel your shoulder blades come together. And then you're going to push into the floor and widen your shoulder blades. And so as you release and the shoulder blades come together, the spine just travels straight down, and then the spine travels straight up. And I'm trying not to add any extra collapse in the actual spine. I'm still holding my abdominals and just thinking of moving at the shoulder blades. But my head to tail relationship stays long the whole time. And then after a couple of those, see if you can feel the neutral position of your shoulder blades. So that doesn't mean you're not working at all. You're still working in your shoulder blades to hold this position, but it's not all the way together. It's not all the way apart. It is the place, shoulder blades connected to your rib cage in the way they would be if you were just standing and they were just neutral there, if you were lying down and they were neutral. And then for me, to help me find that position, it's helpful to feel the ribs coming together in the front, the lower rib connection, the upper abdominal connection. So that upper body feeling really connected. Now let's start to move the spine a little bit. So cat cow, looking out, letting the tailbone come up, rounding the spine, dropping the tailbone, and not feeling very much movement in the shoulder blade. So we just felt a lot of movement in the shoulder blades. Now, maybe a little movement in the shoulder blades as you go back and forth, but keeping them pretty wide as you go into the arched back position, pretty wide as you go into the round back position. And more than anything, just being aware that your shoulder blades are connected to your rib cage and they're not collapsed. It's a little bit of attention and a little bit of effort to keep some control around the shoulder blades. And now we're going to do a little bit of kind of combining those two things. If we go back to neutral position of the spine, step your hands forward just a little so they're really truly in front of your shoulders. And then we're going to work back towards child's pose. And to get into child's pose, there's a little bit of rounding of the spine that has to happen. So the tailbone starts to drop down a little. You feel the lower back open. And then there's also movement in the shoulder blades that has to happen. They have to go out and up. You get a little bit of shrug in your shoulder. And it's like you lengthen the space between your lower ribs and the bottom of your shoulder blade. It's like you're stretching that space. And then coming back up, spine's a little bit round. And as you get to hands and knees, the spine just flattens back out again. The shoulder blades are neutral. So a little cat, rounding the spine, reaching back, letting the shoulder blades glide up as you reach your pelvis back towards child's pose. And then coming back up, the spine's a little round. And once you get to hands and knees, widen it or take it back to neutral there. Just kind of play with that feeling, all those feelings along your back body. Maybe a little into your armpit. I feel my armpits stretch out here. And then next time you get to hands and knees, we're going to go all the way the other direction, all the way into like a big cow, which is the extended position. So letting the pelvis come forward, letting the chest open. And again, not totally collapsing the shoulder blades. They're supported, they're fairly neutral. There's some work there. And then pressing back to the flat back position. And take that movement a couple times forward and back, letting the spine really arch. Not static in your shoulder blades, but definitely working, fairly stable in your shoulder blades. And pressing back to the flat back position. And playing with that a little back and forth. And one more time. And then this time as you push to the flat back, we'll go all the way back into child's pose again, letting the spine round, letting the shoulder blades glide up. A couple breaths here. And then roll up to sitting and take your legs out in front of you. So let's play a little bit with the roll down / roll up exercise. So feet, let's do them hip distance apart. And like you were standing with your feet hip distance apart, your knees in line with your toes. Cat position, round spine, head to tail. Feel how the shoulder blades kind of come around the body, come around the rib cage a little bit to reach your arms forward. Ribs together, belly in, starting to roll back. Grab onto your legs if you want, so that you can really unroll the spine, articulate through the spine. Once you get to the floor, the arms reach up, and then the shoulder blades glide up to reach overhead. Inhale, arms lift up, head lifts up. Reach around, grab your legs, cat position, round spine, rolling up, reaching forward. And inhale as you start to go back. Unroll the spine, exhale, shoulders glide up. So I'm cueing a lot of different places in the body, a lot of different sensations. All those things working together like a dance. All the many things that happen. The feet are heavy, the breath is moving, the abdominals are working, the back is open, spine unrolls, shoulder blades move. So really juicy. Lots of flow. And just like always, if you want, halfway down, back up. If that feels juicier in your body, then go for that halfway down and up. A couple more. Inhaling to start. Exhale. Opening the back to reach. Inhale, breathe through the back body. We'll take one more up and down, ending lying flat on your mat whenever you get there next. And then let your legs relax on the floor. And then just take a moment here with everything relaxed. Feel the weight of your body and feel the back of the body. I really was cueing the back of the body a lot. So feel how your pelvis is, feel how the back of the ribs are, feel how the shoulder blades are. Let your spine relax. And take a couple full breaths. And then we'll take your right knee and bring it in. Take hold of your knee and then allow everything to fold. So knee folds, foot and ankle is relaxed, hip folds. And then if it's comfortable for you, let the pelvis move a little. Let that kind of float up too. So really that kind of juicy feeling of allowing one joint to affect the other. And then take your leg away from you again and just see if you can feel that. If your arms are a little shorter, you might hold the back of your leg instead of your knee. Sometimes that feels a little better. But feel how all those things are connected. Relax the ankle and the foot, relax the back of the knee, relax the front of the hip. And only when you really feel the front of the hip is fully relaxed is it useful to let the pelvis move. Sometimes we go straight into lifting the pelvis and moving the pelvis, and the front of the hip is really fighting it. So just notice all those distinctions. They're all slightly different. Ankle, foot, knee, hip, pelvis. As my pelvis moves, it's going to make my other leg move a little bit too. That's just fine. So that knee floats up a little. And then feel what it's like to not move the pelvis, to bring the pelvis right into place. And again, maybe if you're not feeling this, you might be able to see, like, as my pelvis tips up, this knee has to bend a little bit. It needs to come up a little bit. Otherwise, I'm sort of hanging into my hyperextension. It doesn't feel so good. So letting that come up, feel how that is. And that is also useful as I bring the pelvis back into place. I can sort of feel when I've hit neutral because my leg can just like relax really easily without really hyperextending my knee and pushing it down. So we're going to find that place with the knee over your hip, with the pelvis in neutral, but still really relaxed in the lower leg. And then hold the back of your thigh if you're not already. And we'll take it up and down, inhaling up, exhaling down. And so now as my leg goes up and down, I'm trying not to move my pelvis, right? And especially if your hips are tight, as the leg gets straighter, the pelvis will move, and maybe even your neck and your chest will move, right? So I'm going to only go as far as I don't move my pelvis. I leave it where it is. Really just move the knee joint. And then next time you have the leg up, staying there. My leg isn't super straight. Yours doesn't need to be super straight, but my pelvis feels really grounded. This leg feels really easy and grounded. My hip isn't going crazy. Might work a little, but it's not like super grippy. Let's take your hands away, put them by your side, and do some leg circles. So inhale over to the left, exhale, juicy hip, around and up. If you have taken any dance classes, you might know the term rond de jambe. I think I've even said it in this class before. Circle the leg, right? There's the motion. We're just doing it lying on your back. Circle across. Don't move the pelvis, move the hip joint, ball and socket joint, circling around. One more. And then reverse it. Just in case Scott doesn't tell you, he did take a bunch of ballet classes when he was in college. So we'll see if he brings in some ballet terms when he shows up. One more. And then relax the leg down. Let everything relax. Rest moment. And then let's check out all that on the other side. So the left knee coming in, I like to hold my knee. I have a short torso and long arms, so that works really well for me. But you might hold behind your leg. If you have a long torso and or short arms, that might feel better. And then start with the knee a little away from you. And then feel all the joints. Okay, I'm going to relax my foot and ankle. I'm going to relax the back of my knee. How much does that fold? I'm going to think of deepening and softening and creasing in the front of my hip, as far as that'll do. And then allowing the pelvis to float up. And as my pelvis floats up, I'm going to let this other knee bend a little. Feel where that goes. And then let it all release. It's cool. It's a cool system, right? Foot and ankle, knee, hip, pelvis, spine, other knee. And then releasing that away. I'm tending to exhale as I do all those things. Seems to be helpful to let things release. And then finding neutral in the pelvis, not pulling it in, not tipping it up. Switch the hands to behind the leg if you're not already there. Let the right leg relax easily on the floor. And if your hips are pretty stiff, it might never relax easily. You might just bend your knee and put your foot down. That's always a good option for any of these exercises if your hip tends to be really stiff. So then we go up and down, not moving the pelvis, not grabbing the hip, soft ankle, easy folding and unfolding of the knee. One more time, taking the leg up, a little bit straight-ish, but not super straight. Hands come by your side, rond de jambe, circle the leg, reaching over to the right, exhale, around and back up. Way in my hip joint, there's a ball and socket joint. My hip joint is a ball and socket joint, so way in my hip, there is that. And I'm just smoothly letting that circle around. Just nice little easy, juicy circle in the ball and socket joint. Try the reverse. One more. And then bending your knee and rest your leg down and then let everything relax for a moment. Take a couple breaths all the way into your belly. Take a couple breaths. And then take your knees into your chest. Bring yourself up to sitting. Okay, so we did ankle, knee, hip, pelvis, spine when we were on the floor. So that's rolling like a ball, right? I gotta let the knee soften. I got to let the ankle be soft. That folds my hip a lot, right? And then I'm not trying to be upright and rolling like a ball, right? That's going to be really grippy in my hip. I'm letting the pelvis roll a little backwards, letting the lower back open, finding that somewhat easy place to be. Now, for some people, it goes really far, right? And so holding the ankles works pretty well if you're that person. For other people, it feels stiff right about here. So holding your knee is a better way to go. That's going to let you actually release some of these places, get into your belly, round the spine. Maybe even holding the back of your leg. So give yourself a few options. See what really works. Maybe your shin, maybe not all the way at your ankle. So find that place for yourself. Pelvis moves, spine moves. Easy knee, ankle, hip. Wide shoulder blades around the back. Belly in. And then let's start with the little rocking chair, teeter-totter. Slightly back. Exhale. Slightly forward. Now, even if I could pull my knee super close to my chest, if I did that lying on my back, I'm not trying to pull my knee super close to my chest and rolling like a ball. If you take a look, you can see there's definitely some space in all those joints, but they're soft. They're not grabbing. And I'm just using my belly to help me move this position. Now, this exercise we're doing here, a little bit back, a little bit forward, it's great. Maybe this is where you want to stay. Not everybody needs to roll back on their shoulders, right? Maybe if you have some osteoporosis, especially in your neck, it's not so great to roll back on your shoulders. So that's fine, right? You just stay with the little rocking chair. Or maybe you do a little rock back, but don't try to go very far. And then for some of us, it just feels great, right? To roll way back to the shoulders and back up. And it's a good, nice, good challenge. So pick your version of rolling like a ball. Feels a little like dancing. Now we've left the realm of ballet and we're more in contemporary dance when we're rolling on the floor, but two more. And last one. I'm resting all that. Okay, so we're going to work our way up to standing and we're going to work through that knee, ankle, hip, spine feeling coming up to standing. So coming over onto your hands and feet. And if you can, play with this position here. Now, this doesn't work for everybody, but it's the same thing we did lying on your back. Relax the ankle, fold in the knee, fold at the hip, let the spine be a little round. I can't really be in a flat back in this position. And then shift your weight onto your hands a little. Press into your hands as you take your heels down and let your legs straighten a little more. Don't have to be all the way straight, but towards that straight. Still really round and open in your back. And then bend your knees even more, keeping the heels down. Drop your pelvis and unroll your spine. Coming up to standing. And then let's take your feet a little open. Toes pointing out. I think I also have thrown out the term demi-plie in here. So we're going to do a second position demi-plie. Look at all the dance I'm bringing in. It's no challenge. You can't throw me off with these Little challenges. So toes a little open, knees soften, ankles soften, hips soften, letting the pelvis drop straight down. Now, not leaning forward, which means you won't go quite as low as if you were to lean forward. Just see what you do when you're straight up and down, right? Head to tail, long spine. And part of what you have to do when you don't lean forward, you have to get the thighs to rotate and the lateral rotator muscles, the deep rotator muscles, to come on a little bit to hold your knees in line with your toes. You also have to get the groin to release a little, kind of some length and opening in the inner thigh. If I'm really, really strong here and tight here, and I lean forward a little, that actually means it doesn't get pulled on quite as much, right? And that sometimes is really useful and just gets into other stuff. But if I'm going to stay more upright, I got to let the inner thighs lengthen out a little more. I got to think of the thighs spiraling open, and then the knees go over the toes. And if all that fails, then take your toes in a little more, right? And then maybe your knees can go over your toes. So a little down and up. And one more time, taking it down and holding it. And then just a slight down and up. I would almost call it a bounce, but it doesn't need to have a real bouncy feel. Just a little lower, and then pressing the feet a little up. And then a little lower, and pressing the feet to come a little up. So some quads, some hamstrings, some rotators. And then all the way up. We're going to leave the feet as they are. We're going to go back to the upper body a little bit. So one arm, I'm going to say left arm. I'm going to take my right arm up, so I'm mirroring you. Reaching up. Earlier we worked on that shoulder blade gliding up. Maybe feel that again, lifted lower a little. It's not gripping in your jaw, just a little movement there. And then start to feel how the spine can follow that. The shoulder blade comes up a little, and then the spine starts to open up a little more. The ribs open up a little more. I get a little reach through the side. And then coming back down. Same thing the other side. Take the right arm up, do a little shrug here and there. Notice that you're not pushing the rib cage forward to lift your shoulder. You just like have a little movement here, up and down. And then at a certain point, I've gotten a little bit of movement. Now I let the spine go. Now I let the rib cage open. I'm not collapsing. I still am a little lifted on this side, but I'm feeling a little reach. And then back down. And then a little more flow, reaching up, shoulder blade glides up, rib cage opens up, and back to center. Fingers reach up, shoulder blade comes up, rib cage opens up, and back to center. Now, can we put the two together? Arm reaches up, and as you reach over, pelvis comes down. Straighten the legs, and back to center. Other arm reaches, shoulder blade, spine, knee, ankle, hip, and then everything arrives back to center. Arm, shoulder, spine, hip, knee, ankle, and back to center. And one more. And reaching over. And back to center. I'm going to take your feet, turn them to a toes pointed position. Little bend in the knee. Forward rolling through the spine. And all the way upside down for a moment. And then bending the knees, letting the pelvis drop. Feel how the spine bends, right? The pelvis moves a little, the lower spine bends. And then unrolling all the way back up. Okay, I'm going to pass the gauntlet over to Mr. Anderson, see what he comes up with.
Alrighty, so the idea of dancing. Some of you have seen me dance, and I love to dance. I love the joy of moving and music, but I'm not a dancer. But we can bring that kind of joy to movement, and that's what I want to, kind of pick up this idea of taking some ideas from yoga and Pilates, familiar stuff we do all the time, and add just a little bit more movement, a little bit more flow to it. So let's begin with your feet pretty close together, letting your arms hang at your side. And it's so easy, both in yoga and Pilates, for things to be really, for lack of a better word, stilted. So let's start off letting your breath be fluid. So a little deeper inhale, little deeper exhale, letting your breath be fluid. Now for point of reference, now make your breath a little more regimented, stiffer. Do you feel that difference? Let your breath have that quality of fluid. Let your breath have a quality of flow. So now let's bring that quality of flow into movement. Step your feet wide apart. Turn both your feet out a bit. And then with the exhale, triple flexion. So this time let your hips bend a little bit more so you do lean a little bit forward. Then inhale up. So we're deep in the heart of qualitative, letting your movement have the quality of flow. Couple more fluid movements. And then what we're going to do here in a moment is we're going to flow from one movement to another movement. Bring your feet back to the front. Left foot in, right foot out. Flowing to exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. So breath has a quality of flow. Movement has a quality of flow. And not to say that what we do other days shouldn't have a quality of flow. So letting flow enter your movements. So next time that knee in the bent position, pausing there. For the organic inhale. Exhale, fluid movement, hand to knee, hand to hip. Now with the next inhale, flow up and then immediately switch to the other side. Right foot in, left foot out. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. So letting the movements more blur into each other. Both yoga and Pilates, we'll sometimes even use imagery, like on a necklace, beads, that each technique is a separate bead. Letting the movements flow into each other so there's not quite as much differentiation between them. So, for example, next time your knee in the bent position, pausing there. And then flow into the side bend. Couple breaths here. Right now your right foot is turned in, left foot is turned out, isn't it? Now in a moment what we're going to do is come up and then switch the feet. Inhale up, back to the first side. Exhale, bend. Exhale, tip your hips. Back to what we did previously. And now flow your arm forward and through. Take a little peek at the ceiling. So in a moment, we're going to do the same exact thing on the second side. So let's see, to make that fluid transition with an inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. How'd that feel? Let's go back to the first side. Use an inhale, exhale to make that move. Inhale, exhale, second side. Inhale, exhale, first side. Now maybe you're thinking, good God, are we going to do this transition any more times? So let's make another different fluid transition. So keeping that front knee bent. Inhale, bring your torso up, arms outstretched. Take a peek over your right hand. Now, second side, we're going to go to that variation of side angle first. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, vertical. Inhale up. And stepping back toward the middle. So variation of sun salutation. We don't do this quite often. Bring a quality of fluidity. Exhale, arms up. Flowing into inhale, folding. Exhale, reach your head forward. Inhale, release your head down. Just like you did with Collette. Exhale, roll your spine up. Fluidity, mobility. Inhale, arms down. Now we're going to do the same thing with less prompting. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And let your arms hang. Few breaths here. And place your hands on your hips. And let's expand upon some of these ideas. Step your feet apart, not super wide, kind of medium width apart. Turn your left foot in and then your right foot out. Turn that left foot a little bit more in so you comfortably face toward the side. And a forthcoming movement is going to come from your hip sockets. So at the next exhale, fluidly fold in your hips. Remember those leg circles? Cultivated fluidity from your hip sockets. And then end up looking down toward the floor. Then I bet you can see it coming. We're going to do the same thing on the second side, using an inhale, exhale to get there. Inhale up. Exhale, fold in. Few breaths here. First side again. Inhale, exhale to get there. Second side. Coming up. Turning back to the front. Pelvic crests. Gently draw them up toward the ceiling. Feel how that tips your pelvis a little bit backwards. So that posterior pelvic tilt, originating from your belly muscles and not from tucking your tailbone. That, letting that lift of your pelvic crests, lift your chest up, extend to include your chin going up. The next movement is really easy for it to be very staccato. So letting the movement fluidly arise from your hip sockets, like Collette worked with you on your back. And then when there's no more fluid movement in your hips, then let your spine round. Remember what that felt like? Let's keep hands on the hips for the time being. Few breaths here. And then fluidly articulating your spine as you come up, all the way back up to the vertical. Now let's build upon that. Left foot in, right foot out. Turn to the side. Folding fluidly from your hip sockets. Then that straight leg. The opposite side arm comes across. Notice how that creates a turn in your torso. Turn with a U, not the bird, turn with an E. Few moments here, I bet you can see it coming. Second side with an inhale, exhale. First side with the inhale, exhale. Second side with the inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, front. Bring your feet back together. Fluid breathing. You ever see those inflatable things typically in front of like a cell phone store or used car lot? Do those really inspire people to buy stuff? That's a thought for another day. But they're kind of fluid, aren't they? So let's bring arms forward. Remember you did that rolling down, rolling like a ball rocking chair series? Let your shoulder blades do that same thing. Let them wrap around your side body to open your back body. Now take your next inhale and direct it into that space. How's that feel? Upper back for a lot of people is pretty tense. Use your inhale to loosen up your upper back. And maybe you're already feeling as your upper back loosens up, feel how your neck is loosening up too. I know more than a few people watching this have stiff necks. Now with the next exhale, reach your arms up. Remember how you worked with your shoulder blades? And exhale, side bend right. Inhale up. Side bend left. Up. To the right. Up. To the left. Up. Channel your inner thing in front of the Carlots. And letting your arms down. Few breaths here. And then we're going to use a sun salutation to make our way to the floor. So just as I did all that stuff up high, now we're going to come down low. So right between your shoulder blades, inhale into that space. Exhale, arms up. Inhale, folding. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, stepping back. Let's take a few breaths here. And then come on down. And then bring your feet forward out in front of you. Let's start off with knees bent, feet flat upon the floor. And let your pelvis tip back a little bit, just like you did before. So I have long arms, so I catch my elbows around my knees. Some might find that it's easier to use your hands on your knees rather than your elbows. So whatever your experience may or may not be, take your two sitting bones and root them downward, and let that organic rooting perk up your spine. Now, we're deep in the heart of subjectivity. Sitting tall can feel dry and hard, or it can feel juicy and easeful. So we'll take a few moments here quietly to cultivate sitting up in that qualitatively more juicy, easeful way. All right, now take your left foot out in front of you. And let's keep this right foot pretty much where it is. Bring your left arm around, could be hand, could be elbow. Other hand behind, and then fluidly twist your spine, opening to your right. Few fluid breaths. Then turning back to the front. Now, something we don't do all that often. So let this knee go out toward the side a bit. And then reaching forward. And then that knee, go ahead and snug it up against your arm or against your shoulder. Few breaths here. And then rolling your spine up. Taking both feet forward. So now keeping your right leg forward, bring your left leg in. Right arm comes across, could be hand, could be elbow. And then fluidly turning. Remember when I was training as a teacher, way back in the day, and they taught us about the power of language. And I was a young guy, so I thought, yeah, whatever. But then when the teacher experimented in inviting us to make movements gliding, and then to make the same movements using the word scraping, it was really different. So maybe you're already feeling, as you turn with a sense of fluidity juiciness. Quite often it feels different. And then turning back to the front. Now let that knee go out a little bit. So now there's room for your torso to come forward. Most of us, we don't come that far forward. Then to whatever extent you have come forward, then lightly bring that knee back in a sense, kind of giving yourself a hug, spine flexion, few breaths here. And then come on up and taking both feet out in front. All right, so fluid movement. So now join your soles together. And your hands could either be catching in front of you, that can help you sit up tall, or arms behind you, that can also help you sit up tall. And rather than thinking about pushing your knees to the floor, think about flowing your knees away from each other. That's kind of like what you did in Collette and standing a little bit earlier, isn't it? To help open up some of the tightness that often creeps up into the inner thighs, into the adductor muscles. Now, if you'd like a little bit more challenge, you could explore walking your hands in front of you, spine flexion, few breaths here. And flowing up. Then taking your feet out. Now, this is a hard one for a lot of people. So a lot of people, you're just kind of immediately on the back of your pelvis, no problem. You can use your arms to help to your capacity sit up. And for a whole lot of us being right here, this is more than enough challenge. But if this is coming quite readily, then what you could do is work on bringing your hands forward, bring your torso forward, looking down at the floor. We'll take a few breaths here. And then flowing back up. Both feet forward. Exhale, both arms up. Inhale forward. Few breaths here. And then rolling up. And then finding a sitting position. So it could be sitting up on a sofa or a chair, or it could be sitting on a cushion or a few blankets or a pillow that's doubled over. So way back when we started working together, just maybe 25 minutes ago, we started with the quality of breathing. That deep breathing can be kind of ragged or jerky, or could be fluid. Slowing your breathing, making it slower, and deeper. Slow and deep breathing with a quality of fluidity. All right, let's do one more inhale, exhale like that. And with this exhale, let go of any other technique and let your breathing be. Normal breathing. All right. How was that? Really glad that we could spend this time together. Any comments, questions in the chat? Looks like the chat's quiet today. So thank you so much for joining us. Oh yeah, and the dance concert Collette mentioned, it's a YouTube live event, and the link is up in the chat. And maybe you can join and see the dancers and Colette's choreography, and then maybe we'll see each other there. Good to see you. Bye bye.